Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and this is the February 2012 Watercooler, which is our affectionate name for the virtual user group for all people that would be using Tabs3 and PracticeMaster. Today we have two topics. Mary Jo is going to talk about verification lists. Some people don't know what they are and might want to. Others might know what they are and wonder how they can get rid of them. So we'll cover both those things and tell you exactly what they are and how they could be used and how to get rid of them, if that's something you'd like to do. And I'm going to talk about, well, it's a topic that indicates my age, shortcut keys. I come from a time before we had, are they called mice or mouses? Anyways, I come from a time when we had to do everything with the keyboard, and therefore I still do a lot of things with the keyboard. And a lot of times people will say, how did you do that? And so I'm going to tell you what shortcut keys are available to you, how to find a list of them, and we're going to look at just a couple of them. Now, before we get started, I'm going to give you a little bit of housekeeping by showing this little picture here and explaining to you that you have this box, or at least one that looks something like this, on your screen. Over on the right. If you don't see it, it's because you're savvy enough that you've already clicked this button here, because this button here that looks like arrows pointing to the right means that it will push this big box out of the way, and then all you'll see is this little set of buttons here. When you do that, this icon here will turn to arrows that point to the left, and clicking it again will bring this box back into focus. You can ask questions by typing them into this questions area right here where it says enter a question for staff. Leanne, our humble moderator, will find those questions and ask them on your behalf. Or if you'd like to ask your own question on your own behalf, all you need to do is click this button here, which means raising your hand, and Leanne will, once we get to a point where we can break, she will unmute you, let you ask your question, and then mute you back up so you can continue eating lunch. So, Mary Jo, wiggle your mouse. You see, you still don't have it, do you? Okay. Now it's moving. There you go. Okay. Technical difficulties aside, I'm going to click on this icon up here and get rid of this. I'm going to turn it over to Mary Jo, who is going to talk about verification lists.
Hello, everybody. Verification lists. What are they? What do you do with them? How do you manage them? Most of the time, most of you have probably went in, if you enter fees or costs or payments, you'll see that after you've gone in and put in a fee entry or cost entry or payment and you close the window, you get this little box here, and it's the fee verification list or the cost verification list or the payment verification list. If you're in some of the other programs, there's other verification lists, but for today I'm going to talk about the ones that are in tabs for the costs, the fees, and the payments, and what to do with those. Once you get this box, every time you exit until you delete it and have nothing on there, or until you enter the next fee, every time you exit out of that particular module, whether it's fee, cost, or payment, you'll get this opportunity to look at the list of everything that you just did. These will accumulate and accumulate until you decide to delete them. So if you wanted to keep track of all the time you entered for a whole month, and you wanted to print that list off at the end of the month, you could keep this list and just view it periodically, or just close it as you work in the program. And then at the end of the month, you can print it, and then you can delete it, and it'll start fresh for the next month. Maybe you do this daily. Maybe you do it weekly. For fees and costs, I'm going to tell you that doesn't make any difference. You can do it whenever you want. For payments, I'm going to also tell you a procedural way of keep managing those so that they're actually useful for you. In this case, we've got a couple of fee entries that we've already put in, so this box is popped. We have different ways that we can sort. You can do it by the entry or by the timekeeper or by timekeeper and then date, and we'll show you a couple different ways of how that changes what it looks like. And you've also got some different options on what to print. This middle column, you can do the name, obviously the work description, timekeeper initials. This print delete for all users, that's available if you are a manager. These verification lists are user specific. So Susie down the hall might have her fees that she put in, and Joan at the other end of the building has her verification list. It's all by user. So if you are a manager, you have that ability to see everybody. You could print and delete all users. And again, that's only for managers, but that is available so across the board, whether you're logged in as you or somebody else, you'll be able to see those entries and those lists. Then you can also print different optional columns and, of course, make portrait or landscape. So I'm just going to do it with the regular entry, how it comes out, and take a look at this. And I'm just going to preview it. And once that pops up, you'll see that I've got a list of all the new entries that I had put in there. And let me zoom that in if it's a little small here. So let me make it a little bit bigger. And so I can see all the different time entries that we have in here that were new. And then down here, I also see all the changed entries. And if we had deleted any, I believe we might have deleted one down here, I would also see what that deleted entry was. So scroll down here a little bit. There's one down here. So there's the deleted entries. So if you ever wanted to go back and keep track of, what happened during that particular fee entry, day or week or month, you can do that. You can see which ones you had changed, you can see which ones that you had deleted, and then which ones were brand new. Something else while you're on this verification list that you can see is that you can drill down. We have the drill down feature here that if I click on this particular client, it will take me right out to the client record, or if I click over here on the description, I can go right into this time entry and modify it. So if I'm looking at my list and I see right away that I should have put an hour and a half instead of an hour, I can go right into that, click on it, make that change, save it, and then that will be on my changed entries. So I can see that I had fixed that. So that is a powerful tool there that you can use to figure out what entries you've already entered in. I am going to go back out and show you what it would look like. You can order this by timekeeper. So if you're entering time for several different timekeepers and you want to organize this by the timekeepers that you're doing, maybe they want to see that you've actually put their time in and they want to verify that it was correct, especially if you're doing it like, when they're giving you those timesheets every week, you hope, or by the end of the month for billing, you want to make sure that they've got everything. You can order it by the timekeeper, and this will go ahead and you can also start the sort on a new page if you want to split them up, but I did. I'm just going to have it out here, and it'll show you that I've got timekeeper 1, 2, and 3. I could have these separated out onto separate pages so I can hand them to each of my attorneys that I was working for, and it'll give you that total that you need for what your time is and also the description. So very, very easy way to do this. You can do it after each time. Like I said, if you do it by day, by week, by month, you can print those off. Once you've got to the point where you've verified the fees that you want, maybe you do this daily, like I said, maybe it's at the end of the month, you want to eventually delete these verification lists, or they're going to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, and eventually it will get too big that you won't be able to enter anything else in there. It will give you a message. There will be a data file integrity check error, I believe, that comes up, and your verification lists are going to be full. So you don't want to let these go forever and ever and ever. It will hold a lot of data. It's going to take it a while to get to that point, but if you're entering a lot of time, that could happen, and I get calls a lot that people don't know what to do in that situation. You need to delete some verification lists. So you can just come in, delete the verification, it clears it out, and then starts fresh. So some people, when they hit this delete verification list, will get an error. It'll say that they can't delete it. So there's some settings that you have to be aware of in the verification list to allow you to be able to delete verification lists. And to find that, it's under our Setup tab, and we go to the Customization. And right here on this first list, there's an Allow Deletion of Verification Lists Without Printing Them. If you've got a huge, long verification list and it's asking you to print it before you're allowed to delete it, you don't want 1,000 pages of fee entries. You want to be able to just view it and then just delete it. So this box right here is what allows you to do that. Allow the deletion of verification lists without printing it. So that needs to be checked. Something else that we get quite a bit is people don't want to see them at all. They don't care about the verification list. They're tired of that box popping up every time they turn around. They never use it for anything, and they don't want to even have it pop. In that instance, these boxes right here, these 4, you would just uncheck those. We won't even create verification lists, and that will just stop that from even popping. Now, if you choose this, you got to understand that it's not going to do that for just one user. That's not going to create them for anyone. This customization is system-wide, so you're not just turning it off for yourself. You would be turning it off for the entire firm. So be careful with that. But these are where those settings are stored so that you can change those. One other thing I want to talk to you about, the cost entries, same thing. When you get into the cost, it will also create verification lists. Again, when I come out here, it's the same parameters that you have. I can view all the cost entries. So there's really not a lot of difference here. Just going to show me my costs. The one that is different and that I use quite a bit is the payment. You might not want to create your verification for fee and cost, but if you're the person in charge of doing payments, this is one of those check and balance things that you can put in place. If you have a verification list, when you get all your payments in for the day, and you go to the bank every day, you're going to want to come out here and you're going to want to look at this verification list for the payments. And again, it's the same parameters of what you want to, by entry or transaction code. It's a little, you won't have timekeeper here. You'd have transaction codes. You could actually group those together if you're using different payment transaction codes. Remember, if you have, different codes for different types of things, you could order it by that. But when I get done entering my payments for a day, if I'm going to the bank every day, I want this total to equal what I am taking to the bank. So if I get this verification list, I look at it and I print it out. This total will be everything I'm taking for client money that is being deposited that day. I then go, if you're using our GL module, I can make a deposit slip that also has all of these clients. I have the client ID and all the amounts that were going to be included in that deposit, that I can create my deposit ticket, and then I have my bank receipt. And all three of those things should equal. Now, this does not include credit card payments. So if you're entering a payment for, your deposit slip would include the credit card payments, but this would. So you have to subtract that because you're not taking those credit card payments to the bank. You're taking your cash and your checks. So you may have payments in here for clients that were paid with a credit card, but you would just subtract that from this total and understand that the new total is what you're actually taking to the bank. But that will be obvious on here. You can include the payment type on there so you would know what's what. And then those would all match. So you would have a way to have those check and balances and verify that, yes, I did enter all these payments in tabs. Yes, I did go over and make my deposit slip in GL. And yes, I did actually make my deposit, so I have a receipt. And you have all three of those verifications that you can go pull out any day, and you have that. Once you've printed this, then I suggest you delete it until the next time you go to the bank, because then it will be fresh and it will have the total that you're going to take that time to the bank. If you don't go every day, it's not a big deal. Just exit out of here, verify what you put in that day, exit out, go the next day, put your payments in. When you get ready to go to the bank, print it out, and then delete it. And then you start fresh again. And it just is a cycle that you just keep doing. And it is inevitable that you will forget to delete it one time, and you'll go put your next days in, and you'll have a whole group of them for 11/11, and then you need to get in 11/12. And that always happens to somebody. It's happened to me. You just cross that off, and you know that those were the previous transactions, and just adjust your total, and then delete it again so it will be fresh the next time. You don't have to panic. It's just going to show you a little more information than what you needed to, and you can adjust that manually. So, any questions on verification lists?
I do have a question from Sharon.
Okay.
Sharon would like to know, how do you make a deposit slip in GL?
Okay. Do we want to talk about that today, or do I can actually get with you? That's another webinar that we can do and show you how to do it. But I can get with you directly, and I'll show you how to do that.
That is a different topic, so we're not gonna do it today. But did you say Karen, Leanne?
No, it was Sharon.
Karen. Sharon, if you will email maryjo.boyd, not Blum for those of you who've known her for a while, but Boyd, maryjo.boyd at attorneycomputersystems.com, and reminder, she can get with you real quick and give you your free tip for the day, we'll call it, and show you how to do that.
Now, I'm going to just add one last thing here on those data file integrity checks. If you do get an error or something that or if it's taking a lot longer, you'll see that it'll go through your tabs verification or your tabs data file integrity check, and it goes through each of the individual programs. And the very last thing that it does is a verification list. And if you're sitting there for a long time and that thing's running and going through those verification lists, that's a sure sign that you've got a lot of users out there that have probably never deleted these things. And so that's taking a lot longer to run that program to go through these. So I would just check with them, and then if they are not using them or they've just not deleted it in a while, go clear those out and then you can go forward and have those, it won't take quite so long with that data file integrity check as well. So, any other questions, Leanne? Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Paul.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we do when Mary Jo and Daniel and Leanne and I get together on Mondays for what we call Learn Day, which is also the day that we have these meetings, is we go to lunch. And for some reason today we started talking about broken bones in children and in ourselves. And I related the experience that in first grade, Chrissy Kelleher tickled me while I was in a tree and I fell out and broke my elbow. And then I let it be known that I was in first grade in 1967. 1967. I'll say it one more time. 1967. And you know what that means? That means I am extremely old. And because of that, I was actually around when the very first PC was released in 1980. I actually got in this business because my father, who was a patent attorney, bought his first computer, which was before the PC, a Tandy Radio Shack Model 1, with a cassette deck to store tape, to store programs and data and documents, and didn't know what to do with it. I was the nerd, and so I helped him and got into this business. And what that means then is that I come from a time when we didn't have all these newfangled things like flash drives and digital cameras and terabyte hard disks. We actually have a computer in our living room that holds movies that has a terabyte hard disk. Can you believe that? I can't, because I was in first grade in 1967. So one of the things that I am very, very familiar with is using the keyboard. Now I am admittedly moving my mouse at this very moment in order to get over here into PracticeMaster. And you will see that when I'm in PracticeMaster, I can hit, watch the mouse, see the mouse there? I can hit Alt and W and 2 to go to the client file. And I can hit Alt and W and 4 to go to my task list. And I can hit Alt and W and 1 to go back to my monthly calendar. Did you see the mouse move? No, you didn't, because I did everything with my keyboard. Now, for starters, let's move that mouse again. If I click on Help and Help Topics, when you are in Help, in addition to being able to search in the index and the search, you also have the contents, and you also have something called favorites. I searched a minute ago for keyboard. And once I got keyboard shortcuts up on the screen, I clicked on favorites, and I added that to my favorites. But I did it on a different computer. Isn't that funny? So I'm going to add it now. And if you search for keyboard shortcuts, get it on your screen, click on favorites, and click add. That's kind of like adding a favorite to your Internet Explorer. Now, every time you come back into Help, if you go to favorites and double-click shortcut keys, it'll take you there. This is a list of everything you can do, shortcut-wise, in all the different programs from software technology. Now, some of the things that people do with shortcuts are not really software technology shortcuts, and we'll talk about that. But everything you can do here is in this help article. So I'm going to close these windows, and I want everybody to watch my mouse again, because I'm going to go to my monthly calendar, and then the client, and then the related parties, or what we now call contacts, and then tasks and journal and calendar and the matter manager. Okay? Now, I show you that for two reasons. One, because now that I've opened those 7 windows in that specific order, I know that if I click on window, 1 will be the monthly calendar because it's the first thing I opened, and 2 will be the client file because it's the second thing I opened, and 3 will be the contact file, and 4 will be my overdue task list, yada, yada, yada. Now, the reason I do that is because now I can press Alt, which highlights the file right over here. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to press Alt, and you'll notice file becomes highlighted. That means I have switched to my menu, and now I can press W, which if you look at the second item from the right, you'll notice the W in the word window is underlined, meaning that that's what I would press to go to window. And now I can press 6 to go to the ticketing system that happens to be based on our calendar file. Or I can press Alt W7 to go to the matter manager. Or I can press Alt W4 to go to my task list. Now, the reason I open those windows in exactly that order every day is so that I can know that they're going to be in this order here. Now, that Alt key that takes me up here, that's a shortcut key, but it's really a Windows shortcut key. I think you'll find it in any Windows program, Word, Excel, whatever. If you hit Alt, it'll take you up to your menu, your file edit type menu, okay? It's also a Windows convention that when you have hit that Alt key, that then the first letter or whichever letter will bring into focus that next menu option is underlined. As you can see, the W is underlined. And then, of course, this is just a function of Tabs, or PracticeMaster, I should say, that I can switch to my open windows this way. The same thing will happen in Tabs. So every once in a while, I'll hit the Escape key by mistake, and all of a sudden I will only have 6 windows, and worse than that, they are now out of order. So I will then immediately just close up all my windows, and watch how fast I can do this. Bam. I've opened all 7 programs with my keyboard. Now, I do play the piano, and I have since I've been 5, so maybe that has something to do with how fast I can do it. But I know a lot of the people that don't play the piano or the trumpet and can do this just as quickly. Now, if we go back to this list here, we're going to find some pretty neat things that have to do with, some of them are Windows specific, some of them are STI specific. First off, as I scroll down this list, and I'm not looking at shortcut keys yet, there we go. As I scroll down this list, one of the things that you'll see is that Control-C is copy, and Control-B is bold, and Control-I is italic, and Control-V is paste. Now, those are Windows things. If I happen to be in a note, I'm going to switch to my journal, and I'm going to look at this journal item. And I'm going to type test 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to decide that I want that to be in front. I'm just going to block it and hit Control-C. I did. You didn't see the mouse move. I hit Control-C. Now if I go to the beginning and hit Control-V and paste, it's pasted. Control-X does the same thing as Control-C, only it also takes it out. So I can take this, Control-X, move to between met and with, and paste. Okay? Now another thing, Daniel is our newest employee. Some of you know him, some of you don't. He's 19 years old. Okay? So he's constantly looking at me going, how did you do that? I'm at the end of the line. I hit Control left arrow, Control left arrow, Control left arrow, Control left arrow, and I am moving backwards word at a time. Now I'm just going to type the quick brown fox jumped over the what? What is it? We'll just put fence. It's a something fence. I can't remember what.
Isn't it the lazy dog?
The lazy dog. Well, okay. Well, today he's jumping over the fence, Leanne. Control left arrow, Control left arrow, Control left, Control left, Control right, Control right, Control right, Control right. Okay. Now Shift Control left arrow, Shift Control left arrow. And by the way, I'm not letting go of the Shift Control. I'm just tapping the left arrow. And now I'm blocking a word at a time. Okay? Everybody writing these down? This is gold right here.
Yeah, but you have to answer one question first.
Okay, I'm gonna answer one question. What is it?
Bill wants to know something about the tuba. If you play the tuba.
Bill is my brother, and that father that I mentioned, John, he bought a tuba and would play it all the time. So I don't think he was very keyboard oriented. So I would have to say that playing the tuba is not something that will help you to be keyboard oriented. By the way, a side story that Bill will run into Dave's office because he works with Dave, who's also a patent attorney, and tell him Dave was sick in bed with what turned out to be an appendicitis on Christmas Eve. There was a big party downstairs. John had just gotten this tuba. I believe Dave was 8 years old. And all Dave remembers is that he was in extreme pain, and all he could hear was John playing the tuba with my mother playing the organ. Okay? So there's something that you probably didn't expect to hear coming to today's water cooler. A couple other quick things that I want to get to before we get out of here. Oh, by the way, did you see that? Did everybody see that? No, because my mouse didn't move. Here I am on this tab, and when I hit Shift Control Tab, it takes me back a tab. This will become more obvious when I go into the client file, because here I am, I'm on the list tab, and I hit Control Tab, Control Tab, Control Tab, and I'm moving from tab to tab to the right. Shift Control Tab, Shift Control Tab, Shift Control Tab, Shift Control Tab. Pretty cool, huh? Bet you didn't know you could do that. I could probably do without a mouse. Maybe tomorrow I'll come in and Leanne will have hidden my mouse. A couple quick things. Every program has a shortcut to open it. I am not in the conflict of interest search right now, but I promise you if you go to that help article, or to help and search for keyboard shortcuts and find that help article, you'll find that Shift-Alt-C takes me to the conflict of interest search. And if I type in, Purdue, and hit search, and I'm going to cancel because I want it to go quicker, and so I'm going to tell it to do starts with. I'm not going to get into details, that's conflict of interest stuff, but I'm going to tell it to do starts with, and it'll be much quicker, and then preview. I can see my results for my conflict of interest search for Purdue, but if I go back there and simply type in Purdue and hit Control-Q for quick, I bypass having to hit the search button, and I bypass having to hit the preview button. And what was that other really cool one that we saw, Mary Jo? Okay, I wrote it down. It's F9. You told me I better write down what it was. Thank you. Calendar. Oh, yeah, okay. Mary Jo this morning, she told me, you better write down what that's for because you're not going to remember. And sure enough, I didn't remember. Going into the calendar, here I am. I am looking at P Produce Calendar. I'm going to move my mouse over here to show you I'm looking at P Produce Calendar. I want to get up there and change P Purdue to MJ Boyd, but I don't want to use my mouse. So if I hit F9, it puts me up there. See that? And then I can just type MJ, hit Tab and Enter, and bam. So F9 takes you F5. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good one. Mary Jo just gave me a note here. F9 from within the calendar takes you up to the user selection box where you can go ahead and type. Here's another one. When you're in any drop-down box, Alt down arrow shows you the selections. Cool, huh? Boy, it's fun being old, isn't it? Going back to my calendar. Okay, and I've got 1 minute left, and Mary Jo just reminded me of the coolest one of all. Let's see what client comes up when I do this. Richard Morris, good. Somebody I don't know, somebody we don't know. Here we are in what do they call these? Rich text box. Any box where you have a scroll bar on the right. If I press F5, puts in the date, the time, and the username. So then I can type, I think this guy is great, or whatever else I want to type. And I have now not only identified my thoughts, but I've identified the date, the time, and the fact that I am the one with these thoughts. Okay? Any questions, Leanne? Well, there you have it. You've learned about shortcut keys. You've learned that I was in first grade in 1967. You've learned that my father played the tuba, although not very well. And you've learned all about verification lists. What more could you possibly want? Well, tune in this afternoon, I should say, and we will have announced the topics for the next virtual user group meeting, which is about a month from today. In the meantime, everybody have a good afternoon, and we will see you next time. Thanks much. Bye-bye.